Rain hammered the countryside like 1,000 tiny drums, and in the middle of that chaos, a tiny spotted creature crouched beneath a broken fence. Her fur was soaked, clinging to delicate bones, and her round belly rose and fell with shallow breaths. Not a kitten. No, her eyes burned with something wilder, something untamed. A leopard cub, alone in a storm where she didn't belong. How had she ended up here? And who would dare bring such a creature in from the darkness? What would you have done if you found a soaked, helpless leopard cub in the middle of a storm? Stories like this remind us how extraordinary nature can be and how kindness changes everything. If you love heartwarming animal rescues and unbelievable true stories, hit that subscribe button and join us for more amazing adventures. The storm had rolled in fast, swallowing the late afternoon light and replacing it with a swirling curtain of sleet and wind. The kind of weather that made most people double-check their locks, pour a drink, and settle under a blanket. But not Elena. No, she was barreling down the slick back roads of Sussex County, heart pounding, windshield wipers thrashing in a losing battle against the downpour. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her breath shallow with a cocktail of fear and adrenaline. In the passenger seat, wrapped in a woolen scarf that was now soaked through, lay what she was almost certain was a dying leopard cub. Elena kept glancing at the tiny, spotted body, its sides heaving faintly. God, it was so small, barely the size of a domestic cat, but the faint rosettes on its fur told her this was no ordinary kitten. 1,000 thoughts spun through her mind like leaves in the wind. Where had it come from? Was someone keeping an exotic pet illegally? Had it escaped? None of that mattered right now. What mattered was the alarming roundness of its belly, the lethargy in its movements. Elena knew the signs. She'd spent hours reading about FIP, feline infectious peritonitis, when her own cat, Jasper, had been diagnosed. The big belly, the weakness. It had been a death sentence then, and she wasn't about to let another creature face that same fate without a fight. Her heart clenched as Jasper's memory stabbed through her, a soft, gray tabby who had slept curled against her ribs for 8 years. When the vet had told her there was nothing to be done, something inside her had broken. She'd sworn she'd never feel that helpless again. And now here she was, driving through a storm with a leopard cub on her passenger seat, muttering promises into the howl of the wind. Hang on, little one. Just hang on. The GPS screen glowed faintly in the dim cabin. Ada Emergency Veterinary Clinic, 12 minutes. She could do 12 minutes. She could do anything for 12 minutes. She could do anything for 12 minutes. A voice in her head whispered that she was insane. People didn't just find leopard cubs on the side of the road. But then again, her life had been one long stretch of unpredictability lately. Clients ghosting her freelance design work, bills piling up, the lonely quiet of her rented cottage pressing in like fog. Maybe this was fate's way of throwing her a lifeline. A tiny, spotted lifeline with a round belly and a pair of bright, feverish eyes. She tightened her grip on the wheel and pressed harder on the accelerator. If the cub had any chance, it was at Ada Emergency. 2 months. 2 months since her last visit to a vet, and now here she was again. Different circumstances, same hammering heart. Elena shoved open the clinic's glass door, the bell chiming wildly as the storm shrieked behind her. Her boots left dark, wet prints across the linoleum as she rushed to the reception desk, clutching the woolen bundle to her chest. The receptionist's eyes widened. What? She's sick, Elena blurted, her voice trembling. She's got a swollen belly. I think it's FIP. Please, someone help her. Before the woman could respond, a calm voice cut through the chaos. Bring her into exam 2. Dr. Anna Sharma, tall, composed, with the kind of presence that steadied stormy waters, appeared in the doorway. Elena followed without hesitation, heart battering her ribs. The fluorescent lights in the exam room seemed too harsh, too clinical for the fragile creature Elena laid on the stainless steel table. The doctor gently unwrapped the scarf, revealing the cub in all its strange, wild beauty, spotted coat, tufted ears, and eyes like molten gold. Anna's brows lifted slightly, but her hands were steady as she checked the little body with practiced efficiency. She's not breathing right, is she? Elena whispered, twisting her fingers together until her knuckles blanched. She's breathing, Anna said, her tone even. And she's strong. She pressed along the cub's belly, then chuckled softly, a dry, amused sound that made Elena blink in confusion. Well, this is a first. What do you mean? Elena's voice cracked on the question. Anna looked up, her eyes glinting with something halfway between humor and disbelief. You brought me a leopard cub. The words landed like a stone in a still pond, sending ripples of stunned silence through Elena's mind. She stared at the spots, at the long legs, at the absurdly large paws. A leopard? A very healthy, very mischievous young leopard, if I'm not mistaken, Anna continued. And unless the laws of veterinary medicine have changed overnight, leopards don't get FIP. Elena's knees nearly gave out. Oh my God, the doctor's chuckle warmed into laughter. She's perfectly fine. A little on the plump side, actually. Whoever's been feeding her has done a very thorough job. Elena's face went crimson. I thought she was dying. You thought wrong, Anna said, still smiling. But you did the right thing bringing her in. She could have been hit by a car out there. Or worse. Before Elena could respond, the door banged open. A man strode in, tall and broad-shouldered, with rain still dripping from his jacket. His expression was equal parts relief and exasperation. Callum Price, he said quickly, extending a hand before scooping the cub into his arms like an errant toddler. Bristol Wildlife Center. And you, young lady, he aimed a look at the cub, are grounded until the end of time. The leopard cub chuffed in greeting and began batting at his hood string like nothing in the world was amiss. Callum's jaw unclenched slightly as the cub purred against his chest, her tail flicking lazily. Relief softened the stern lines of his face, though his voice still carried the weight of authority as he turned to Elena. You must be the good Samaritan who called this in. Ah, yeah. Elena's cheeks flushed deeper. I thought she was a kitten. I named her Daisy. The name sounded absurd now, hanging in the air between them like a balloon about to pop. Callum barked a laugh, full and unrestrained. Daisy? That's a new one. She already has a name, Lyra, and she's been giving us heart attacks since the day we rescued her. Anna leaned casually against the counter, clearly enjoying the show. How many times is this now? Third, Callum said darkly, stroking Lyra's head as if willing her to absorb some sense of consequence. First time, she busted out of the kitten enclosure by body slamming the mesh until it gave way. Second time, she figured out a slide bolt and went on a field trip to the raccoon pen. And now, he gestured broadly. Now she's mastered the hook and eye latch, navigated 2 locked corridors, and slipped out a door someone left ajar for about 3 seconds. Elena's jaw dropped. She opened a lock? A storm to save an animal you thought was suffering. That's not trouble. That's humanity. The world needs more of that. And then, almost as an afterthought, if you ever want to see Lyra again, when she's not plotting world domination, come by the center. I'll give you the grand tour. 2 weeks later, under a sky so blue it looked painted, Elena kept that promise. The Bristol Wildlife Center loomed ahead, its wooden signs cheerful against the crisp winter air. Callum met her at the entrance, his smile warmer than she remembered, and led her past the public exhibits to a staff-only corridor. And there she was, Lyra. The enclosure looked like a bank vault fused with Fort Knox. Multiple latches, steel mesh, and what Elena swore were padlocks built by NASA. Inside, Lyra was a living ember of grace and muscle, her coat glinting gold in the sunlight. Her belly, Elena noticed with a smirk, was still comfortingly round. Lyra was demolishing a burlap sack stuffed with hay and scented with catnip, shredding it with the focus of a seasoned predator and the joy of a kitten. At Callum's voice, "Hey, Lyra, look who's here," she paused, turned, and those green-gold eyes found Elena. Slowly, deliberately, Lyra walked to the edge of the enclosure, sat down, blinked, once, languid and unhurried. A slow blink. A gesture of trust, a whisper of peace in the language of cats. Something unknotted in Elena's chest. The grief for Jasper, the restless anxiety about her career, the lonely hum of her cottage, they didn't vanish, but they softened, like frost under morning sun. She hadn't rescued a dying cub, but in a way, she'd rescued a part of herself. She started volunteering at the center the very next weekend, scrubbing enclosures, prepping meals, learning the secret humor of wild things. A month later, she signed a new design contract with a client who adored her minimalist concepts. The ache for Jasper remained, but layered now with something brighter, something buoyant, The absurd, wonderful memory of a leopard cub who turned her defroster on and taught her that sometimes, when you go looking for tragedy, you find laughter instead. And for Elena, that was the happiest ending of all.